The dinosaurs. Those mountains of flesh and scales that could eat your mother, your dog, and your car at the same time. Wonderful creatures of nature that could crush a building and, well, I guess you got it. They were terrifying. You don't need a master's degree in dinosaurology to understand that. But how did they fall? What were the consequences? And more importantly, could they have survived? In this video, you'll find out what happened the second after the asteroid hit the Earth and caused the dinosaurs' extinction. The day the sky fell. The fall of the dinosaurs is something familiar to most of us. We all know that a huge meteor swept the Earth phase. But how could scientists know what happened millions of years before our existence? While no one who saw a meteorite hit the Earth would be alive and well, as they would be screwed, there is a great deal of evidence to prove that it was indeed an asteroid fragment. Those space rocks that orbit the sun and roam through space that hit the Earth and blew the poor dinosaurs to smithereens. Proof of this is found in a large crater known as Chicxulub Crater in the Yucatan Peninsula, Mexico, now buried in the Great Sea Floor. While the asteroid is believed to have been between 10 and 15 kilometers in size, it was the collision velocity that produced the disaster, generating a crater 150 kilometers in diameter. What caused global mass extinctions? After the impact, from 1 second to the next, 75% of the animals on Earth, including the dinosaurs, were dead. There was no opposition. There are not many things you can do when a giant space rock is about to destroy your home. This produced a huge shockwave and a heat wave that threw huge amounts of material into the atmosphere, like shaking a carpet, only that carpet was full of animals and vegetation. Soot traveling around the world, managing to block much of the sun, reducing the amount of sunlight reaching the Earth. Plants are not being able to grow. Death in all its splendor. A shockwave so big, it ripped into a crater and shook wildlife as we know it. Like dominoes, the food chain slowly fell, causing even the surviving species to face the consequences and starve to death. The scarcity of plants meant that many herbivore species had nothing to eat, leading them to disappear. Carnivores, having no herbivores to eat, disappeared with them. Whether on land, in the water, or the sky, there was no safe place on Earth. That was the death of the old world and the beginning of a new era. Global climate change. Before the meteorite fell, the Earth was facing another problem: global warming. Even the dinosaurs couldn't get rid of that pain in the ass they tell us about every day on TV. But global warming is a really serious problem then and now. And back then, there was a gigantic volcano in what would now be central India actively functioning and spewing toxic gases for 2 million years. The continents, those tricky bastards who don't like to stand still, were beginning to pull away from each other, creating great oceans. The world was changing, and with that, so was the climate and nature. The last non-bird dinosaurs were suffering the consequences and starting to become extinct. Only the asteroid made their job easier, giving them the final blow and making their species disappear. What survived the asteroid impact? While many species died, there was one that proliferated and began to dominate the entire Earth: flowers. While the plants had it a little easier, the animals took the brunt of the meteorite fall. However, that's what brought us the animals of the present. Many of the animal groups alive today are the survivors of the impact. Only their ancestors eventually became extinct and were forced to evolve to adapt to this new world. While the non-bird dinosaurs died out, many survived by evolving into species that began to resemble modern birds, adapting to the climatic conditions of the time, through a process that led many of them to become extinct, and others to become the birds of today. Even the great birds eventually disappeared from the planet, leaving us with their smaller ones. 15 million years after the dinosaurs died out, the first large mammals appeared. Really big animals, the size of a rhinoceros or an elephant. But why did it take 15 million years for animals to get bigger and reach the size of dinosaurs again? First of all, animals were never able to recover from the extinction of the dinosaurs, so there were no other species on the planet that could compare to them in size, except for whales, which are way bigger. This is because the food was less abundant, making large animals unable to feed themselves, and only smaller species survived. Climatic conditions were less conducive to the development of life, not to mention how devastated the land was. When a specialist wants to find out if there is life on a planet, the first thing they look at is the distance it is from its respective star or sun, along with its size, which will determine the heat it emits. Living on a planet that is too cold or too hot can cause the development of life to be null, or not very abundant, since the conditions are not optimal. Logically, the animals of our planet did not care about this, since they were able to adapt to the climatic conditions and improve from generation to generation so that their bodies could survive in this devastated world. Still, no matter how much willpower or survival instinct one has, if the cold or heat had been more extreme, no species would have been able to evolve, let alone live. Could the dinosaurs have survived? I think this is one of the most fantastic discoveries that science has made, because if the situation had been different and the meteorite had fallen in any other part of the world, life on our planet would have been different. But what is even more incredible is that if it had only taken a few minutes to fall, the asteroid would have sunk into the depths of the ocean, never to emerge again. Logically, it would have smashed a few things, but the impact would have been minor, and the world would not have had to wait millions of years to be the same again. A few minutes. That's all it would have taken to change the course of history completely. This would not only have changed all the species as we know them, but it would have prevented massive destruction of our planet, and we would have another type of species, very different from the ones that inhabit today. So if you think it's bad that a pigeon craps on your car, you don't want to imagine what it would be like if a giant pigeon with scales was doing the same thing. There is also the possibility that the dinosaurs might consider having us in their food chain to make a delicious sandwich of humans, which would lead to us having to live behind big walls, hunting beasts so they don't exterminate us. However, we also can't forget the role of climate change, which could have eventually wiped out the dinosaurs, only in a less drastic way, which could have given them a chance to eventually evolve and give rise to a greater variety of species more unique and similar to their ancestors. Who knows, maybe people would now be walking their dinosaurs instead of keeping dogs as pets. That's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, let us know what would you like the next video to be about. I'll be reading you in the comments. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell for future updates. See you soon.
477 left 10. 477 Roger, have visual contact.